Fuck well. What are we doing here? What are we doing with this hair as well, man? What is the Hampden Road, by the way? It's been a minute. Hate that pattern, man. It's been a minute. It's been longer than a minute. It's been a month. I checked the other day. A full month without talking to you. I think I fell out with or something, man. But nah, things have been busy. Production work's been coming in. The cash has been rolling in, which is great. Also other projects. Just today I was working on a wee mockumentary that's going to be appearing on the channel. It is basically it's like a comedy documentary type film that follows my rise to stardom off the back of my album / EP, whatever you want to call it. Rebel Without a Clue. Great fun to write and great fun to be a part of. The idea it was going to be my first kind of directorial piece, but never really worked out like that. I had really good hands on deck helping me with it, man. It was good fun. Good to be a part of it. But in terms of the podcast, man, see, sometimes just try to fit it in, and I'll be honest with you, I don't want to give you shite and call it sugar. I'm talking about, I'm of the stage and I'm of the age where quality is better than quantity. And you can apply that all throughout your life, but especially when it comes to content, man, it is good if you're an aspiring content creator as such. Take it from me, starting off, if you don't really got any content, then it's better off throwing shite at a wall and seeing what sticks. By the way, in case you're wondering, my bra borrowed the sombrero. It was actually him that gave me it, but my sister-in-law wanted it for a night out, and I'm still waiting on it coming back. I'm saying that as if he watches this. But aye, last night, I got contracted to go and film a school disco. Essentially, it was in Easterhouse Sports Centre. It was called The Gaff. And the idea was like bringing the communities together. I think it was like a few select schools up that way. And it was good. Like, it had Gary McKev, DJ Zitkas, DJ Rankin, and all the old school tunes and Wayne's were going mental. And it was good seeing the communities come together. One thing, I was speaking to a wee guy, and he was saying he'd been stabbed recently, only a few weeks ago. He got stabbed 12 times. And he was like 15. I was like, wow, man. They showed me, and like, he didn't exaggerate by any means. He'd been done. And I remember, because I get stabbed roughly a similar age to him. And I was looking at that, and see the thing like that is, right? That's where the cycle begins for a lot of young people. Getting stabbed at such a young age, right? It's a traumatising event, no matter how bad your injuries are, or whether if it's one of the things, it's traumatising, right? So, what do you think he's going to start doing when he leaves the house? Probably start carrying a blade, wouldn't he? Because you're going to say to yourself, I'm not letting that happen to me ever again. And if you're yourself, you're vulnerable to that. So the young mind thinks, right, I need to carry protection. And what the offshoot of this is that cycle. So if you're carrying a blade, I've spoke about it countless times, that if you're carrying a blade, whether consciously or unconsciously, you're making a decision to use that. Whether you've got any intention, even if you say, listen, I've got it for protection as such, you might not be setting out to physically harm somebody, but if you're placed in harm's way, then you've got a willingness to use it. And then that cycle goes on. Thing is, I'm 33 now, turned 33 the other week, and I don't know if he's knew my age, but I'm getting on a bit. When I was younger, it was the same cycle. 20 years before me, it was the exact same cycle. What's changing? Nothing really, apart from the triggers. Whereas now you've got social media, that can be a trigger. Get people kind of having back and forwards as such. You're suddenly under a lot more scrutiny. When I compare it back to when I was young, I had Yahoo Messenger. It was a form of social media, but things weren't out in the open as much. It was merely a social messenger than a social media. So imagine like Facebook Messenger, but you could write statuses and stuff like that. I'm saying this as if my audience don't know what that is. But kind of like MSN, if you've heard of MSN. So that was just mainly kind of more used for slagging matches or arranging to go and meet up if you're talking about it in a gang-related context. There would be, for instance, I get caught one time, right? I was a pure shite bag. When I was young. I was never really a fighter, and as time went on, that's why I started carrying blades. But I remember I was in the hospital. Me and my pal were carrying on, and I picked up a glass bottle, and the bottom of the bottle was smashed off, and I threw the bottle at him, but I've put my finger underneath the smash bit at the bottom. As I flung it, I've felt a certain coldness in my fingertip, and I've looked and I've took that layer of skin right off it. You could see my nerve endings and everything. It was disgusting. So I went to hospital, and whilst in hospital, there was a few people I'll use the term rival gang, right, just for the avoidance of doubt. I would have never used that, and that isn't the kind of terminology I use, but just so you can understand the circumstance here. So they've came in as I'm in the waiting room, and I've shat myself, and they're like, I'm on outside this and that. When they go outside and they say it was Hilton, say that's the best scheme, and I said it to try and save myself a beating, and they videoed it, and that video done the rounds in school. I was mortified, man. But eventually that kind of trailed off. People probably forgot about it. And that's kind of reflected in anything you really do, unless it's really morally reprehensible. If you do anything, like some people might see that video I was pure skint, and I done a video for car insurance. You've probably seen it pop up on YouTube or TikTok or something. Most people do not know this exists or whatever the script as I said. I done that for like 150 quid. I needed the cash. They offered it. I took it. And to be honest, I need to figure out their marketing strategy, because I think everybody's seen it twice. Well, I think I need to take a few tips off them. And at the time, people would comment, seen this video, people would message me like, I think somebody's using you for AI. And I was just like, you must be AI, mate. No me. But at the time, I was like, why? I felt a bit of a sellout, honestly. I felt a bit, Eventually people forgot. You know what I mean? People forget eventually your most embarrassing moments. And that wasn't my most embarrassing moment, but moments that can turn the toes to quavers. People will forget, right? But when you've got the likes of social media these days, stuff can do the rounds, and it can stay doing the rounds. For instance, that video I talk about when I was younger, if that made social media, that could have went everywhere. You've got your Snapchat, your Instagram, your TikTok, all these things that are generated to share content far and wide. When you're in school, you're going through that area of your life where you're suddenly caring what people think. You're conscious of your own actions, of your own behaviour. You're constantly monitoring yourself to appeal to other people. And this is for the most part. If you didn't do that, you're in the minority. When you're in that mind space and these aforementioned events, they occur, it can be soul destroying, can be mortifying, can be almost the end of your world. And I had a few embarrassing events happen to us when I was in school. Listen, probably happened to most people. I'm talking about, but I think we always feel as if the magnifying glass is on us, the spotlight is on us at times at our worst moments. But the thing is, it was these instances where, for me, eventually, that was probably one of the catalysts for me starting to carry blades, because suddenly I had respect. I didn't need to go and earn this reputation at being a fearless fighter, at being bold, none of that. Just having something on me was enough. But then eventually, you get put in that situation, you're about to prove that you're willing to use it, because you'd get the odd person saying, you won't use that. You won't use that, you carrying that, what you got to do with that? And eventually you're like, right, I better go and do something with this. And you're almost setting out just to prove something to yourself as well as your peer group. A good friend of mine explained the concept of peer orientation and peer attachment. Because peer attachment, right, for instance, if I hang about my friends group, probably have the same similar tastes in music, fashion, etc. But peer orientation is where you go seeking solutions to your problems in your peer group. Because the idea is when we are looking for solutions to our problems, we're looking for direction as such, we should orientate vertically through the family system. So for instance, boy would orientate towards a male role model, his dad, whatever. But when that's missing, when there's fractures in that family unit, you're hanging about the scheme, you're orientating towards people that come from similar backgrounds, with similar broken homes, with similar issues. You start looking at them for solutions to your problems, and the immature mind can't really think past an immature brain. For instance, if I'm a young 14, 15-year-old and I get caught off the other scheme, I get stabbed off somebody, naturally they're going to say to me, right, you better go and get them back, don't get tooled up, you get a blade, and offsets that tit for tat type thing. Whereas if you've got it vertically through the family ladder, you've got a bit much more mature mindset. Wait a minute, really about to do this, these are the consequences, this is what can happen, can we resolve this in another way, depending on the severity of the situation. But listen, sometimes you might gravitate towards the older male role model, the dad, whatever. The dad's like, we'll go and do him, because the dad is in that heat space as well. The thing is, these things only really happen in the scheme. I'm no too versed in the goings on in the homes of people in these affluent areas like Mulgai, Newton Mearns and all that. I don't know, is there a wee guy that gets a doing in school in Newton Mearns, gets home to his dad, and his dad's like, right, we're going down, wait till I get him, I'll get the dad, you get the boy, you better go out and batter him. Unless the dads came for Govan, punted a power, made some dough and moved to Newton Mearns, I doubt that's very likely. But then, that's just where you have the issues in the school system, you know what I mean? Because if you're, for me, when I left primary school and went into secondary school, suddenly the innocence was gone. It was a lot more serious. You were on much more of a platform for scrutiny. And then obviously you had the kind of gang violence and people all intermixed with each other for different areas. And suddenly you're looking for that sense of belonging because I know what it's kind of like. It's almost as if you're cast out into the wilderness and you're just looking for shelter. Whereas the shelter you get is for the gangs as such. You find a group of people you can latch onto. And for me, I'm talking about my own experience as well, but it's no doubt there's identification elsewhere. You latch onto people in that group, essentially, so you don't become the target. Because the collective body of yous is a bigger target. So, for instance, if your target would be individuals, essentially, and then you latch onto a larger body of people, the individual's not going to come near it. Whereas you're easier pickings, it's almost like a vulture-like mentality. And if you go into bullies, that's kind of like vultures, essentially. These things have not changed. There's always been bullies. There's always been violence in the schemes. There's always been gangs. There seems to be a resurgence. In the likes of last night at this community gathering, essentially, it was positive, man. Really good, and it was good meeting people like the youth workers. Shout out Kev Martin, who was instrumental in putting the event on. It was great, man. Seeing people that actually care, that want to help the community, that are not in it just to fill their pockets. They're few and far between. I don't think they get enough credit as they deserve. I actually met a lassie who I used to go to a youth club when I was like 14, and on a Thursday they would take you out and play football and type thing like that. She's still a youth worker, and I met her last night. And it's great to see people in their roles, they're just trying to help their community. And that's the thing with communities, right? So see if we look at like the help for the government as such, the government are not interested in helping these communities. They're no arsed, if anything, they're doing the best to strip the funding out of these communities and then apply the funding elsewhere, like we'll put more police in the street to combat the rising crime. The reason why these areas, the poorer areas, feature such a rise in crime is the fact that you're stripping out the community funding. Because young people, they need direction. They need guidance. And if you're competing against a young person, their mum and dad split up, dad's probably in the jail if he's even on the scene. He's orientating towards his peers who are in a very similar position. They've got nothing better to do. The young mind needs entertained. You go and walk out in the street, right, with no money in your pocket, where are you going to find entertainment? You'll usually find it in stuff that is against the law. Probably find ways to vandalise shit. You know what I mean? Gang fighting. Just kicking about the street. Just kicking about in the places where most people orientate towards the shops, the kind of more populated areas. And then with that, the crime follows. The thing is, this was as common and as true back in 2006 for me as it is in 2025 for other people. And it makes you wonder what can really be done to change that. I'd like to think a few things, but I'm not an expert. The thing is, I can point out problems, but cannot offer a solution. I can try. I think like these kind of youth clubs, like the one I was at last night, they deserve more funding, they deserve more attention, they deserve more backing. You know what I mean? And I think what these communities need is a bit more honesty. This is why we're having such problems. Because the thing is, see when one of these Waynes go out and they get murdered or they murder somebody, which I've spoken about previously, can and will happen. It's not until that happens, after the fact, we're thinking, what could have been done? How do we stop this? And then suddenly task forces are deployed to try and reduce it. And the thing is, it's like locking the stable door after the horse is bolted, like, that's what it's like, man. And you try and say to these people, look, this was a long time coming. But the thing is, see the people that make these decisions, they're unaware of it because they don't live here. They've never lived through some of these people's lenses. They've never entered into these houses, these schemes, and actually been a part of the community. It's one thing to turn up and treat it like a safari and wander about and go, oh aye. Turn up with your drove, with your fucking delegates, sway you. Go to the local library, do a wee grand opening, go into a school, do a wee talk. You're just passers-by. You're not learning anything, and you're not really doing anything. You're not engaging. And listen, is politics such a thing where it's impossible to enter in with the right intentions? Do people enter in with the right intentions? And slowly but surely they just lose grasp of them? Or is it set up so, pardon me, is it set up so the people that have got the right intentions don't get within 40 yards yet? Because these are very powerful people, especially when money's involved. You know what I mean? Because the people behind the scenes that have got the money, they're making sure that their men and their women get into these seats, get into these positions of power. Because suddenly they've got manoeuvrability. They can be bought and paid for. They don't want somebody that's not going to serve them. And that's what you're up against. And to some people, a lot of people, and not so much a large amount of people, but the people that could make a difference, to them, the numbers in their bank account means more than the numbers in the street, the numbers in the scheme, in the jails, or these places. The thing is, right, for me, especially in Scotland, there's not enough voices coming for the scheme. And what I mean by that is, there's plenty of people who can speak, but they're not getting heard. And I feel creativity, these projects, speaking to yourselves, is a great way to communicate the message. There's one thing to bang the drum, but the thing is, people hear a drum banging, they'll just lock their doors. They'll turn off the buzzer and they'll not answer the door. We need to creep into the homes. And how you creep in is by appealing to people. For me, it's from a creative perspective, because I can wax lyrical and talk about all the problems and the environment I stay in and I've grown up in, and people that have came from that environment will probably connect, they'll identify, they'll relate. But that's as far as it stretches. The only people I can really connect to are the people that know. The thing is, man, we're trying to make this known to the masses. Basically, the way I think to capture people's attention and scream out for the schemes is through a creative manner. It is for me anyway. How many stories have we got that are untold in these schemes, man? You know what I mean? How many people do you know? How many characters? And you look at the representation we've got, it's almost insulting to a degree. When you watch like programmes as such and it's meant to reflect Scottish culture, and it's diluted and it's filtered to appeal to a larger audience. And I can understand that from a financial standpoint, but I mean, we're Scottish. In comparison to the rest of the world, we're not the largest population, but we've got a lot. You know what I mean? We've got a lot to offer. And I really hope the mechanisms a change operating, because I really want to see Scotland have its place as one of the leaders in cultural identity in the world, because our culture is pure. And the fact is, right, in comparison to the rest of the world, look at America, like the Western media and Western television as such, just how much you're educated about America, how much you know about America. Same with England to a degree. Scotland not so much. So we've got a lot people don't know about. Imagine, right, for instance, you go into Netflix and like, I feel like I've seen everything that's on that. But imagine going onto a Netflix and you're like, I've not seen any of these. It's like a library of undiscovered knowledge, undiscovered stories, stories you've not heard before. You know what I mean? And when you look at like the English culture, look how quick, when you watch the likes of Top Boy and that, people are quick, they want to understand what they're saying. They want to get it. People can get Scotland. The only thing is, we need to stop being so negative and so downtrodden about it. Stop pulling each other down with that crab in a barrel mentality. You know what I mean? If we support each other, we can support ourselves and support the people that need it. As we say, there's a cycle involved in violence, especially gang violence. There's a cycle involved in drugs. There can be a cycle involved in success. We just need to kickstart that cycle. And I think what the problem is in Scotland, especially when somebody gets a bit of acclaim, start doing well, start maybe entering into a public platform, they start to get praise, that can swallow up people. And they suddenly develop that Frank Sinatra syndrome. I'll do it my way. One singer, one song. You know what I mean? And they'll forget what they're pulling behind them. And I think, as well, what happens is, in Scotland, you get people that go, right, I'm going to be the one that does it. It's going to be me. I'm going to light the fire. And which the blaze of Scottish culture will burn. I'm feeling dead philosophical today, you know what? Or am I talking shite? Two sides of the same coin. But I think it needs to be a collective thing, because as various as Scottish culture is, there's a lot of diversity. You know what I mean? There's a lot of different voices coming in Scottish culture, but what is largely misrepresented and underproduced is the sound for the schemes, and we need to hear it more. So keep listening. I'll finish that up for the day. Hope you've a blessed day, and I hope I've made sense to you. Been a pleasure as always. Like, subscribe, and don't get wide. Catches!